10 today. The headphones are back. Last run was a bit of an experiment without the music, bringing it back this time round. And this is going to be the start of week 4, and things are really going to step up this week. So I'll let you know how I get on. Welcome back to the Couch to 5K series, in which I go through every run and then discuss how my experience went in terms of the run, my sort of just feelings about how the run went, and then just a bit of advice about what I've learned on the course of these runs so far. So if you've been following along, you'll see that I am now on run number 10 following my previous 9 runs. And on this week to week sort of series, there are obviously 9 weeks in total, and being run number 10 this week, I will now be in week 4 of the program. So let's get straight into it. So starting off with run number 10, there is another increase in terms of like the running structure and the amount of volume, the time I'm running for, the blocks of running will have changed, and I'm going to quickly dive into what the main changes are compared to week 3, and then have a look at week 4 and just draw a comparison and see what the differences are. So if we take a look at it on screen, you will see the running structures for all the runs that take part in week 3, and then there'll also be a picture on the screen showing the structures of the runs for week 4, and I'll just go through the main differences and what you should expect as you move progressively through the weeks and see the runs start to slightly change and become more increasingly difficult. And the idea behind that is to build yourself up to that 5K mark so that you are progressively running for longer and resting for shorter amount of times and getting more comfortable with running for a longer amount of time, essentially. So if you look at week 3 to start off with, you'll see that they have a warm-up for 90 minutes, you run for 90 seconds, walk for 90 seconds, run for 3 minutes, and then walk for 3 minutes, run for 90, walk for 90, run for 3, and then cool down for 5 minutes. And if you want to do the maths and total up how long you're actually running for, if you add all the little blocks together, you will see you run for 90 seconds and run for 3, run for 90, and then run for 3. So altogether, that will be about 9 minutes of running. And then if we look over to week number 4, which is the run I did today, being run 1 of week 4, or week 4 run 1 even, you'll see that the warm-up stays the same, and the main difference here is that you jump straight into a run for 3 minutes, you then walk or rest for 90 seconds, and then you run for 5 minutes. This is the big change, as opposed to what you were doing the week prior. The longest he was running for was about 3 minutes, whereas now you're running for 5 minutes, which is obviously 2 minutes longer, and then they compensate for that by giving you 2.5 minutes to walk, and then you run for another 3 minutes after that, walk for 90 seconds, and then cap that off with another run for 5 minutes, and then cool down for 5 minutes. So in total, if we do the math quickly, you'll be running for 3 minutes, walking for 90, running for 5, walking for 2.5, running for 3 again, walking for 90, and then running again for 5. So if you do 3 at 5 and 3 at 5, that'll give you about 60 minutes of running, which is staggered, and it's spread across the run, so you've got walking in between. But if you draw the comparison, in all of your runs in week 3, you'll only be running for a total of 9 minutes, as opposed to week 4 being the run I did today. That's a big increase, because you're going from running 9 minutes in total to running 16, and that's almost double what you did in the prior week. So in terms of what I said with like the program getting more progressively difficult, the jump from week 2, week 3 to week 4 is quite stark, and you should keep an eye out for that, because you're going from 9 minutes to 16 minutes, which is, if you're someone who's just starting out, that's going to be a massive increase, and you may not be ready for it. So I just wanted to point that out. From 9 minutes to 16 minutes of running, but obviously it's staggered, so you're not running that all in one go. Yeah, so to mention, it's another step up this week. This run was the first one that I felt like Like, I really had to push myself. If I had to describe it, I would say it was absolutely brutal, because I haven't run for this amount of time in a long while. And run 10 shows a massive jump in the volume of running, like I've already mentioned, compared to week 3. Week 3 was very comfortable for me. Moving on to week 4 today, this run really pushed me, and I have been definitely challenged by this run, I would definitely say. Just thinking back to it now, this is the first run in the program where I've had to really, really sort of dig in and just stick with the program and try not to give up, because from what I can remember, towards the end of this run, so you'll see how the run is split into blocks. So you'll run for a set amount of time and then walk, and then that walking time will be your resting time. But there's 4 blocks of running you do. So you run for 3, run for 5, run for 3, and then run for 5 again. On this last block of running for 5 minutes, this is when I felt my body starting to give out. Like, I really started to slow down, and I think I got a bit of a stitch. Or maybe not a stitch, but my legs started to feel very heavy towards my last run of the running structure. I really, really struggled to maintain that sort of pace I had throughout the run from start to finish. On this very last run, I was running on fumes. Like, I was going at a very slow jogging pace, which was much slower than what I was doing for the other course of the sort of run. And when I got to this last block of 5 minutes, I had to really, really rely on my discipline and really get myself over the line. I was going super, super slow because I just didn't want to stop. The main idea I had in my mind was just to keep going and try not to stop. And I was going super, super slow. I was going just slightly faster than a walking pace because I didn't want to let up and eventually stop running. And I wouldn't even call it a run, it was more of a light jog, because I just wanted to stay with it and just see it through to the end, which is what I ended up doing. And one thing I noticed was that on this run in particular, when I went on this run, it was very cold, it was very windy, and I think it was raining a little bit as well. On this run, sort of had a slight issue with breathing, and it's not the case that I was very much out of breath, but I'm not sure if I've mentioned this before, but this is before I started running. This would have been like years ago. Growing up when I was younger, I had always struggled with asthma, and you can kind of draw a correlation and see how that can be an issue when you're running, because obviously breathing is a massive part of living, and also running is a very intense activity. So you can see how those would go hand in hand and make my sort of journey more difficult. And it was very bad when I was younger. But as I progressively got older, it sort of went away. But on this run today, because of the very harsh conditions and it being very cold, I sort of felt it flaring up a little bit towards the end of the run. And I think that's just a mixture of me building up my stamina and endurance and really pushing myself, and also the cold, harsh conditions, which can make it more difficult to breathe if you're doing such an intense activity like running, and obviously pushing myself as I was in this run. And what I just wanted to say was, despite these sort of circumstances, I was able to see it through and complete it without stopping at all. And if I had to look back to my younger self and see the progress I've made, I think I would be proud, because I have come a long way and I've still got quite a ways way to go, but I feel like I've made good progress so far, and I think it'd be a good note to just be present in the moment and realize that I've accomplished a lot in terms of this program so far, and I'm going to keep smashing every single run and see it through all to the end, and eventually be able to run 5k without stopping. Just circling back on the point about me having asthma, it essentially is a condition which kind of constricts your breathing and makes it slightly difficult to sort of take deep breaths in and out. And coldish conditions, because we're now nearing towards autumn wintry sort of season, it will be much more difficult for my ongoing runs if this sort of issue kind of lingers. And I'm going to try and just do a little bit of research to see how I can address that kind of problem and see if I can do anything to help it, because yes, I was able to get through the run today, but it was slightly uncomfortable given the conditions. So I'll have a look into that and see if there's anything I can do to sort of address that problem, because I'd like to run without any ongoing issues. So that'll be something I definitely look into, so I can look after my health whilst also sticking with the program and seeing my goal through to the end itself. So yeah, that's the point I wanted to mention in terms of the run and how it went. Starting off with, I was off to a flyer. Even though the runs were slightly longer, I was more comfortable running for a slightly longer period of time now. Because of those runs in week 3 of the program, I essentially got conditioned to running for that longer period of time. I was very comfortable for running for 3 minutes now, and it didn't really feel like a challenge. And as soon as I got to the block of 5 minutes, that's when I really started to feel it, because my period, or not period, I'm not sure how to put this into words, my blocks of running are now getting longer. I'm no longer running for like 90 seconds anymore. I'm running for a block of 3 minutes and a block of 5 minutes without stopping, which means I need to focus more on my pace and make sure I stick to a pace which I can maintain throughout that entire block of whether it's 3 or 5 minutes, and just try and maintain the same pace. Even if it means going slower, by all means do it. I want to make sure that I keep the same pace and just remain consistent all throughout my run, and try not to sort of go off too fast or start really slow. In terms of that, I want to try and keep a constant pace throughout, and not like go super fast or go super slow, but have a constant pace all the way through, and just make sure it stays consistent, because I feel like that'll be better for me, because I'll soon get used to it, and then once I'm used to that sort of consistent pace, then I can make improvements upon that and then get better over time. In terms of the rest of the run, so I was off to a flyer, and then once I got to that block of 5 minutes, I really started to feel the sort of difficulty really increasing, because once I was past that 3 minute mark out of my 5 minutes of running, I realized, oh wait, I need to run for longer now. So I was sort of questioning, when is the sort of end of that 5 minute block going to come? And it wasn't for quite a while, it felt like, when I was running in that period of 5 minutes. And this is where I felt the real challenge starting to happen, and this has definitely been my toughest run so far, in combination with the running conditions and my history of dealing with asthma. I will try and throw in something that further explains the kind of issue I was having, and I will definitely have a look into what I can do to address that, so it doesn't become a recurring issue on later runs. And just closing out how the run went, I mentioned that I was really like pushing my boundaries and really, really digging in just to stay in the run and see it all the way through to the end. I didn't stop at any point during the run. I saw it through to the end, but if you looked at the pacing, you would see I started off at like a comfortable running pace, and then towards the end of it, as I started to tire, because I'm now running for longer, I sort of slowed that down to like a slow jog, just to make sure that I didn't stop at any point and just kept moving forwards, putting one foot in front of the other, and I was able to see it through. But I was very, very exhausted after that. But I was able to complete it. But I definitely sort of pushed out my comfort zone to get over the finish line and really stick with the run and see it through all the way to the end. So that's all I've got to say on run number 10. I will throw in a quick screenshot from Strava, which shows all the little details from the run, and I'll see you in the next run.